welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. Now, the presidential directive that all states should domesticate community policing could not have come at a better time, especially with the increasing rate of crime and heightened security challenges across all states of the Federation. Community policing was first inaugurated in Nigeria by late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua in April 2004. The concept of community policing is to create a joint commitment between police officers and the people they serve to keep their community free from crime. With unfolding events in a global trend, modern policing and national security calls for joint collaboration by all citizens. No doubt there are calls for the creation of state police, but experts say, although it is workable, it should have a clear framework in terms of policy and funding that will make it work. Tonight on NTA Tuesday Live, our business is to examine issues in community policing and national security challenges. And we have here guests who will be talking about this in depth. But first, let's get to see this report by Ronke Kolawole.
As the global phase and becomes more sophisticated by the day, hardly could any nation boast of being totally crime-free. At the time when the Nigerian armed forces is already degrading the Boko Haram insurgents in the northeast, crime rises in the northwest, while some other states suffer frequent attacks from kidnappers, armed robbers, armed bandits, cattle rustlers, and ritual killers. Although the Nigerian police force is the major arm of the defense architecture, saddled with the responsibility of maintaining internal security, contribution of the citizens, especially in the area of intelligence gathering, is key to safeguarding lives and property. From this perspective, President Buhari decided to build on the existing community policing strategy to engender more synergy between the police and the people to make the community more involved and accountable in securing their environments.
The whole concept of community policing is aimed at addressing the internal security challenges. In other words, a collaboration between the police and the communities themselves. So who best to identify the problems affecting them than the community themselves? So in reality, if the structural framework and the operational workings of the community policing are implemented in full, I see it as being an effective way of addressing the internal security challenges affecting Nigeria.
For a period of about 15 years, Nigeria has been involved in community policing in states like Enugu, Lagos, the FCT, Anambra, Imo, Katsina, and Borno, to mention a few. This form of policing is regarded as more proactive, consistent, and problem-solving oriented, having the community as the corner piece of its strategy.
Police need a lot of manpower. They need a lot of training. We must immediately, as a matter of urgent policy, you get set up training schools, training police academy, whatever you want to call it, police college, whatever, in every state. They must democratize, liberalize the process of recruiting. You know, every young man, so far as it meets the health and fiscal criteria, should be able to go to his local government headquarters and put his name down to join the police.
Over the years, community policing has evolved in practice in states. About 2 years ago, the force launched a re-engagement strategy guidelines to empower the officers to sincerely implement the fundamental guidelines. With the hope of achieving expected results, The acting IGP Mohammed Adamu is adopting a model that involves establishment and utilization of special constables to be sourced from the communities, but to be coordinated by the police.
There are inherent problems within the police itself that are against community policing, and then within the structural framework that Nigeria's security system entails. There are several organizations, including the Ministry of Interior, that are implementing one or the other aspect of community policing, and some of them unfortunately are overlapping. So we expect that this committee that has been set up by the Ministry of Interior will look into this issue.
Community policing is not anchored on the issue of human rights protection, the rule of law, accountability, transparency, and people needs driven, and so forth. Community policing is just based on participation with the public. For you to participate with me, you need to trust me, for me to, and so forth. So until that trust is and confidence is actually strengthened and built, then the community policing can now work.
Now, the presidential directive has been issued. The police is strategizing to implement it, but the words are out that government states should complement the job creation efforts of the federal government to gleefully employ the teenage youth, as an idle hand, they say, is the devil's workshop. Ronke Kolawole, NTA News.
All right, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let me introduce our guest to you. I'd like to welcome to this program Governor Mohammed Badaru Abubakar of Jigawa State. Thanks for being here, Mr. Governor.
Thank you for having me.
Let me also welcome to this program Commissioner of Police Yahya Abubakar. He is Commissioner of Police in charge of community policing. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's also welcome tonight Dr. Benson Olubo, is Executive Director, Clean Foundation. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Cyril.
And we're also joined tonight by Professor Femi Odekunle, who is a criminologist and member of the Presidential Advisory Council Against Corruption. Thanks for being here tonight.
My pleasure.
The process is to acquaint you with the procedure, and we do this every Tuesday. At the appropriate time, you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. The various platforms will be in your screen. We advise you to take advantage of them. However, we always say this. For those who are calling in tonight, do us a favor, when your call gets through at the appropriate time, turn down the volume of your TV set. Just reduce the volume. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And the best way to know that your call has been passed through to the studio is you'll see your name appear on screen. Now, once that happens, it means your call is direct to the studio. Your name is on screen. Your call has been passed through to the studio. That's what it means. So just go straight ahead with your question, your comment. Keep it straight, keep it short, and our guests will respond to such issues that you might raise. So once again, welcome to NTA Tuesday Live. Tonight it's all about community policing, but to start off this discussion, let's get the true perspective of what community policing is all about and situate it correctly in today's Nigeria. And to do that, let's turn to the Commissioner of Police, who is in charge of community policing, CP Yahya Abubakar. Put in perspective community policing.
Thank you, Mr. Cyril Stoba.
Right.
Community policing, as a concept, has been formally launched in Nigeria on the 27th of April 2004 by former President Olusegun Obasanjo in Enugu. From that time, that concept has become part and parcel of our policing philosophy in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, officers, some selected officers were picked from Nigeria Police and they were sent to UK, and some were sent to Houston, Texas in the US to be trained on a study tour, to be trained in the basic principles and concepts of community policing so that they can come back here and then teach other officers. So from that time onwards, community policing as a philosophy has been part and parcel of policing in Nigeria by the Nigeria Police Force. In the course of this, so many policies have been developed, training manuals have been developed on community policing, curriculum of our training institutions have been updated to reflect course content involving community policing, and so many officers have been trained to implement community policing. Actually, it's been mainstreamed into our policing style, so to speak. As it is, probably in terms of implementation, has not been so robust as should have been expected. But with the present presidential directive added to the Inspector General Police Directive just last Tuesday in Kaduna, when he was addressing the Northern Traditional Rulers Forum, reinstated that giving directive to all commissioners of police in the state, in Nigeria, to implement strategies that drives community policing so that we can address the escalating crime in the country. That is on course.
All right. Just look at that. 2004 and this is 2019, so I would say that it's not fully been entrenched. That's what gave rise to the presidential directive. But Professor Dekunle, let's come to you and see, you teach, criminology, and the aspect of policing, community policing, surely from 2004 should have been more entrenched than it is now.
Well, thank you very much. The commissioner has been robust and forthright in giving us a brief about the launching of community policing in the country. But I would like to say that I appreciate his straightforwardness by saying that even though the intention has been there, the philosophy has not been institutionalized, and it has not permeated, as it were, the policing culture in the country. You must realize that any policing in the world has certain objectives that shall be used to measure whether it's doing its work or not. For example, are they effective? Are they responsive? Are they equitable in the distribution of protection to the population? Are they efficient in terms of costs and benefits? And but most importantly, you want to ask, to what extent do they, what is the amount and quality of protection they offer the average citizen, not the elites, like our colleague here, the governor. To what extent does the population cooperate or manifest confidence? That is how you measure the success. And the purpose of community policing is to achieve these objectives. And then you find out that, okay, why have we not achieved it? Is it because we are not using the appropriate side? Because there are different policing styles. There are places where you have the service type police, particularly where you have professional commercial areas. Then you have the professional. Again, you have the kill and go kind of policing. But the community policing that we are talking about, and the one Nigeria launched, because I got into it, is a comprehensive one in which there is matter of accountability, participation, transparency, in which the community will let the police know what is their crime problem, what is their priority, and the police will also let the population, the community, be aware of how they are going to go about it. Information will go up and down. What we are saying is that this was the objective when it was launched, and like he said, thousands of our policemen have been trained. 18 states in this country were location sites to launch to experiment it and make sure it goes down. But going by our crime situation now, going by the complaints of the population about the crime scene in the country, going by the complaint about people concerning human rights violation, we cannot see that this has gone down. And when you talk about community policing, it's actually, I would see it as a summation of what policing should be. Whether it's neighborhood watch, whether it's minor vigilantism, whether it's zero tolerance for human rights violation, whether it's proactive policing, whether it's intelligence-led policing, all those are encompassed. The commissioner will, because apparently it's been treated very well in it, all those are encompassed in the way it was launched in Nigeria. And I want to add that not only between 2004 and 2007, even in 2007, 2009, they reviewed the challenges, found out what the problems were, and tried to do other things to make the thing work. But to me, going by the evidence of our eyes, recently in terms of, I repeat, the crime situation, in terms of not just the crime situation, but the people's perception of policing, it means that philosophy has not gone down the way it was intended.
All right, thank you very much. We'll return to you. But let's go on to Benson Olugo and get his views of.
Yeah, thank you, Cyril. I just want to pick up on what Prof said. One of the key things you realize is, if you go back a little, in 2000, in the year 2000, Clean Foundation did a report on police community violence. And that report actually showed that there was a distrust between the community and the police. And that was actually the basis, because we started a campaign that there is need to reorientate the architecture, security architecture, in terms of the community and the police. And it was during the tenure of former IGP Tafa Balogun, that community policing was rolled out. But there has been a lot of misconception, really. Some people see it as state police, just like you rightly pointed out. Some people also see it as something else. But we see it more as a partnership. But what has happened over the years, which I tend to agree with Prof, is there has been that problem of ownership. The police has not really owned it, in the sense that it's more like a donor-driven project. Even though they use it as a policy, they see it as part of what they should be doing. But the reality is that it is not yet owned by the police. And what has also happened is that over the years, as we have different IGPs, what has also happened is that each IGP comes with his own brand of what is in quote community policing. And I think that is where the problem is. Another thing you will also realize is that there have also been different manifestations of community policing. You have the police community relations committee, you have the eminent persons group and all those things. These are still different facets of community policing. But the real thing that is still lacking there, one is effective funding. Because effective community policing cannot be driven by donor funding. It has to come from the federal government, because it's the federal government that set up the Nigerian Police Force, and the Nigerian Police Force belongs to the government. So funding is a problem, then sustainability. So what has happened is that in the circles that it has existed, probably government funded it that time, but the problem is that those funds probably finished, or there was no sustainability, and that is where it ended. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, have we reduced the incidence of crime in Nigeria? And I'm sure you will understand that we have not. One thing that is coming up now, which is a good thing, is we are happy that the president has given that directive. But also, I think another thing that's also happened is that it doesn't have any legal backing. And we know that in Nigeria, once something doesn't have any legal backing, then there's a problem with it. But the beauty is that the bill that was recently passed by the National Assembly under Section 107 of the Nigeria Police bill that is currently before the National Assembly, there is provision for community policing. I think that is a good way to continue this process, because there's need for legal backing. Once it doesn't have legal backing, then people will have their own definitions and understanding of what should be community policing. So we should just go beyond the policies that have been implemented, the experimentations we are doing. Let that legal backing, and also with the force of support that the president is given, and then the IG is also given. I think another thing, finally, I must also confess, is that the people should form the basis of any policy on community policing. What happens is that it's a top-down thing. So the police take it to the community and say, this is what we think should happen. But I think it should be a two-way thing, because you cannot have effective policing in Nigeria without the community being involved. And the community cannot have effective policing without the police. So the community is the police, and the police is the community. So there's that, what we call in law, consensus ad idem. There should be a meeting of minds between the community and the police. The community should be able to feel free and say, this is what we want to happen in our society, and the police should also feel free to actually listen to them. But as the way the things are now, it is not very clear how the implementation is going. Probably there's actually need to have an audit before we start this process. But a key ingredient of the whole thing is that there is now a legal backing, and I think that legal backing, if it gets to the table of the president, we expect that he should sign it into law, because that begins a conversation of what is community policing under the Nigerian legal system.
All right, thanks so much. It's also good we have other issues from that angle.
Well, let me just respond to one or two issues that he... exactly. The uncle,
together.
The issue of ownership of the concept of community policing by the Nigeria Police Force.
Okay.
I want to inform the panel that certainly, right from the launching period, the Nigeria Police Force as an institution has already given internal legal backing to the concept of community policing. So much so that the Inspector General of Police had already promulgated a force order, 291, in 2013, which was recently amended in 2016, directing all commissioners of police, AIG in charge of zones, area commanders, divisional police officers to implement community policing. In other words, community policing basically, it means partnership with the community. Right. Where a police officer is maybe a DPO, in your area of responsibility, you are supposed to go and meet the community, try to solve the security problems identified in that community. Work together with the community to be able to solve problems and then bring safety and security to the communities in that area of responsibility. Now, that is in terms of ownership. Now, furthermore, presently, there's a community policy management team in the force headquarters, headed by the DIG in charge of research and planning. He is the coordinator at the federal level. Then at the zonal level, it is the AIG and the CP commands of those zones that are the change agents who are supposed to be driving the concept of community policing in those areas. So what I'm trying to say is that this concept has already been integrated into the mainstream of policing by Nigeria Police Force. So it's not something that we can say is not being owned by the Nigeria Police. It's been owned already over these years.
Okay, so give it that background.
I will wait for the governor to come in before
Exactly, yes.
All right.
Yes.
I need to respond to that one. Now seek to find out why, if it's been entrenched, the ownership has been taken by the police, why the communities have not bought into it as to entrench it. But let's come to Governor Mohammed Badaru Abubakar. You are, by the Constitution, the chief security officer of your state. And therefore, the concept of policing, effective policing, and particularly community policing, should be of interest to you. So
yes, that certainly is of interest to us all. But coming back to the discussions, they tried in 2004, and this is now 15 years on the trial. They have done an assessment after some years, and the problem still persists. The question here is, can we change our attitude? Because it's an attitudinal issue. The police are used to doing what they do, and they hardly change. I know there are a series of training to train all the actors on how to partner with the community. Is that being done effectively? Can we call the police our friends today as a common man, as a citizen in a community? Have the police managed to change the psyche and the thinking of their operatives out there? That is the question. Because until this is solved, the concept of community policing will still be a problem. And if you look at all the problems raised by the committee in 2014 after the assessment done in Enugu, there is remarkable change in the perception. But the tempo was dropped. They could not continue to train more and more, like all things we do in Nigeria. The little environments they do in Enugu, they train the police, there is good rapport, corruption has dropped, perception on police have dropped. If you look at the statistics then, I'm sure the Commissioner of Police would confirm this. But then they lose the momentum. And like he said, probably funding issue, because training needs to be done regularly, monitoring needs to be done regularly, and we have to have sincerity of purpose. We have to agree, the police have to agree that they really mean to do this, and they really mean to involve the community effectively well, and they really need to train their operatives and have them change. Otherwise, we'll be talking and talking, and another 15 years we'll be coming back here if we remain alive to discuss community policing if there is no attitudinal change.
All right. Well, we've heard the CP talk about the police owning it. We've also had the governor talking about sincerity of purpose, attitudinal change as a key factor here. If it's been entrenched in the police, not so for the communities, is there the challenge of trust between the communities, with the communities trusting that this concept is one that they can key into sincerely? Do we have a challenge of trust here from the communities?
We have a challenge of trust from the community, but it is not in isolation. Lack of trust is predicated upon other factors. Like I said, the commissioner has been honest by saying that it has not gone down as it should have been. But you don't expect him to say more than that, being his having officer. But His Excellency surprised me, because politicians are not known to be honest or straightforward. But in this case, he has been honest and straightforward that we are not getting the value of the matter of community policing. People, remember when I started, I pointed out that one major measurement of whether police is succeeding or not is, one, what is the amount and quality of service,
public perception
it offers. You say they have been offering it, number one. Two, to what extent does the public enjoy, give confidence, have confidence, or enjoy or give them cooperation? It's very low. That's an indication of lack of success. Now, Siri, the matter is this. The concept of community policing is very good if it's holistic. It will work anywhere. After all, whether it's New York, whether it's Lagos, whether it's Gusau, whether it is Zaria, whether it's a village, a community is a community. And the concept of community policing has to involve both the police and the population or the community, determining what is the need of the community in terms of crime prevention. What can the police do? It's not a question of police imposing themselves on the community, or the community imposing themselves on the police, or the leaders, or the traditional rulers, or the religious leaders, or the elites imposing themselves on the police to oppress the population. It is real partnership. It is accountable relationship in which the people are transparent. So there are certain conditionalities that must be there. You cannot deal with police community in isolation. It's a good concept, but it cannot. It must be holistic, like we have pointed out, but it cannot be executed out of the context of what kind of recruitment do you have? Do you recruit people who want to be policemen, or people who are policemen simply because they have no other job? Commitment. Two, how do you train them? Are they supposed to be trained for 2 years, and you train them only in 4 or 6 months because you don't have enough funds? And are they victims of corruption in the training schools? Is the training environment conducive to bringing out a policeman. What about after even they have come out? What is the police subculture in the station they go to? Is it the old culture of corruption, of violation of human rights, or is it the new culture of community policing? When you deploy people, do you deploy equitably to where they are needed, or where the powers that be are? And then see, these are the things that you cannot subtract if you want community policing to work. In other words, you cannot see community policing in isolation. It must be in context. And this is what the governor was pointing out when he said that there is need for attitudinal change. And attitudinal change is something that takes place over a long period of time. Like I said, I am aware of the first order. If you know policing work, if there is a first order, it has the force of law. In fact, it has the force more than that of a law made by the National Assembly when there is a first order. A first order has been issued long time ago to say that community police is part of it, but that is just by the mouth. It must be institutionalized. It must be internalized by the average policeman. So it is after you do that and you are succeeding, that's when you will get trust. You can't, trust does not come from the sky. Now that the president has said, I want this done, maybe the temple the governor talked about and the keep the gauntlet, but don't make a mistake. It is not an overnight business like Nigeria always wants. It will take time. I've talked about recruitment time, training, deployment, welfare, culture. It takes time.
Some people say that what they call the over-centralization of the police is likely to get in the way of many concepts like this. You see that happening in the case of community policing, where, you have the police spread across, but the real power, the real orders come from the center. Whatever they do anywhere, they need reference. There's a referral system straight to the center, and that causes delays.
Well, I mean, you can look at it from both sides. It's like the difference between 6 and half a dozen. I think what has happened in Nigeria also is, the kind of democracy we practice, the kind of leadership we also have. Recently we did a research with Oxford University in terms of police reform, the devolution question, and we asked ourselves a simple question in terms of the centralization of the police and devolving powers. Which one will fit our peculiarity? And what we found out is that there is actually no silver bullet. There is no quick fix to it, because the reality is that the Constitution recognizes one Nigerian police force. But in practice, almost every state has its own contraption of security apparatus. And so, although we have the Nigerian police force recognized by the Constitution, each state has also tried to get their own parallel security structure. That is where the problem is. And they are everywhere and all those things. And of course, they are not supposed to carry gun, but you know that most of them also have access to weapons of mass destruction. What we also found out is that there are states that have that ability to also use the funds available to them to support this. For example, in Lagos State, they call it, they say it's a trust fund, and that they are not actually it's not a parallel structure. That what they are trying to do is to support the regular police. You also have other states that have kind of tried to mirror what is within the center. So what the report we produced is that we cannot be arguing for every state must have a state police, because you see the problem we also have, like Prof was rightly pointed out, everything is connected. Where state governors are not able to pay salaries of civil servants, if you give them state police, it saves people for disaster.
But I'm not stopping you. But come to think of it, many state governments have put up money to support the police. The federal police, if you like, call it that way.
To assist.
Yeah, to assist. Yeah.
That's different from something.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is that what the report found that, yeah, they have. I mean, it's also their responsibility, actually, because they are the chief security officers of the state, even though the argument is that the CP of the state is not under their control and all those things. But that's the discussion for another day. It's something that has to do with the constitution and the way the police is structured. But what I was trying to say is that what our report found out is that even though we say we just have one police force, almost all the states have their own contraptions of a parallel security apparatus. But the reality also is that if you say we must have state police today, it might not really work, because there are states who, once they have that instrument of power, might actually not use it to provide security architecture in the state. It now becomes a tool to fight the opposition. So that is the catch-22 thing there. Do we continue with what we have? It's possible it will work if there is political will to make it to work. Is it possible to have state police? It's possible, but not in all the states. Maybe we do like what also was done with community policing, do pilot projects. For those who, for the states that think they can manage it, let's try and see how it will work. But for us to just wake up and say, centralization is not working, state police is the answer, I don't think it will be the answer immediately, because the problem is that if you are not able to pay a police officer, that becomes a problem, and he has access to a gun. That is a big problem. And I mean the civil servants can only, demonstrate, go to court, carry placards. But somebody who has a gun and you've not paid the person for 1, 2, 3 months, he is not supposed to demonstrate because it's against the law. Might have another problem and all those things. So I think it is something we really need to think through very well. And I don't think the current police structure is flawed. What I think is that there is need for us to look at it again and ask ourselves, how will it work?
Okay. CPF, where would you say is this disconnect between the communities and the police in terms of community policing?
Okay, before I go straight to answer your question, let me just chip in on what Doctor has been saying about centralization or over-centralization of the police powers at the federal level, and whether there's any likelihood or maybe the possibility of maybe having other parallel states police in Nigeria. Now, if you're talking about community policing as a philosophy and a strategy to bring down crime rates in the country, it doesn't matter what kind of structure you are having. That's a technique. It's a strategy. As a matter of fact, you are allowed to change your strategy depending on circumstances that you are facing. If this one doesn't work, you go back to the drawing board and then assess the situation, look at the indices, and then come up with a different philosophy or strategy again to counter what you have. So what we're talking about here is not about the structure of the police. We're talking about the philosophy, concept of community policing. It can be implemented regardless of any contraption you have. So as it is, with the present setup, community policing can still work. Number one is the political will, like Dr. Harriet pointed out. Number one is political will. And then the commitment of all stakeholders, from the federal level down to the grassroots. Once the commitment is there, we imbibe it, we institutionalize it, internalize it, and make sure that it is being implemented holistically down to the grassroots. In any case, policing, the concept of policing talks about safety to the community. That's policy. Safety to the communities. Not the elites, not in the cities, the communities. And that's why community policing comes about. It's supposed to be policing for community, not even community policy. You provide policing services to the community. This can be done in this country without having to change any of our structures, policy structures, as it is. Now, coming to the question you asked in terms of disconnect, I think still it's a matter of implementation. We're still going back to the same point, implementation. His Excellency already mentioned that how long is it going to take again? Are we going back here after 15 years again to discuss about the same issue? The disconnect is implementation, continuity, commitment. And when you assess all these things, you find out that the bottom line is funding. As far as the issue of Nigeria police is concerned, the limitation in this aspect is funding. That's what's holding this implementation of this community policy. Before it cascades down to the grassroots, across board, in all formations in Nigeria, there should be serious funding voted for this, because we need to train, to retrain. Prof have mentioned training institutions, recruitment, hiring, selection, promotion courses, training courses. All this, it needs funding. You understand? So bottom line is, let's go back to the drawing board and make sure that we are very, very pragmatic about this policy.
Oh, well, let's just, while other issues have been raised, I just thought we might also ask the governor here. Benson talked about states under the guise of all kinds of security apparatus have also set up, almost a parallel. Do you also have such organizations in Jigawa State?
No, I don't. I don't. The only addition I will do here is in Jigawa we have serious contact with
vigilantes?
No, not vigilantes. Serious contact with the traditional institutions.
Yes.
They support the police very well. Our communication is very good, and they have in some different locations vigilantes, but they don't carry guns. They are vigilantes associations in different small towns to work with the towns and fully sanctioned, fully monitored by the police and also by the traditional institution. So we don't have parallel apparatus like they have in many states where they carry guns, try to even punish and take people to some kind of prison that they have. No. And I think most of the state, if I would say, work with the police, have some small number of vigilante organized locally by the community, but under the watch of police. And that can be a concept also of what we are talking about, the community policing. When the community decide to put together some group to help the police, and sometimes they even go patrol with the police to support them in our state. So that is the kind of arrangement we have in Jigawa State, and I believe it works very well, more especially in preventive, because of the concern and because of the involvement of the traditional rulers and the information flow between the traditional institutions and the police. We have a lot of informations and manage in many instances to stop crime from happening.
All right, we already have our first caller on the program, and this one is from Abuja here. Alex calling in. Hello, Alex. Go ahead. No, I think we lost that call. Perhaps. Okay, just keep the calls coming through. Yes, Prof.
No, I want to say that it is unfortunate because the idea of community policing should not be considered new in our system.
That is it.
It's one of those ideas that the white man learns from anthropologically, then they refine it more in a modern way with certain terminologies, and they bring it back here. And our leaders, when we local and quote academicians give ideas to government, they probably put it on the shelf. But when it's brought from UK or America, it becomes otherwise the idea of community policing is what the governor has pointed out. It has been with us all along. The idea that the community is aware of its particular problem of crime, what is the best way to do it, and you have your hunters or your vigilantes who are the people who are also aware of the nooks and corners of the community. Now, if you follow that, regardless of what kind of, like you said, what kind of structure you have, whether it's central police or state police, the idea of community policing is very valid, and it will be, I think, is the most effective form of policing, and it's good. Like I said, some people have been able to convince the president that there's this dead idea on the shelves of the force, and I think it has to be reawakened, and they need to institutionalize it, but it must start from the base when you are recruiting people, when you are training them, when you're doing, and like Alobi said, it's not just a question of partnership. It involves accountability and transparency. And a word on state police, that's not what we are discussing now. Most state leaders in Nigeria, particularly from the south and are agitators for state police. I've never, ever, as a criminologist, as a Nigerian criminologist, supported state police. Not because I'm for centralization, not because I don't believe in the values of decentralization, but because knowing the Nigerian political elite, what will happen if states had police forces, full police forces? You can imagine what would have happened between Rivers and Akwa Ibom when they were fighting over the oil wells, or between Anambra and Kogi, or between Oyo and Oshun when they were fighting over Lautech, or when Ekiti and Oshun had disagreement. So it is important that at this stage of our development, the issue should not come. Okay. And like the boy turned out, it is the people arguing for state police is not so much for crime prevention. It is to use the power of being a governor, or be a governor to be able to manifest authority over others.
All right, let's go back to the phones. We have from Kano, Yusuf calling in. Hello, Yusuf. Yusuf, if you're there, go ahead, but turn down the volume of your TV. I can hear the whole back.
Okay. Good night, sir.
All right. Thank you. Good night. Yes. Yes.
If I may just respond to, in fact, add to what His Excellency has said in terms of about these informal policing institutions, Vigilante, Neighborhood Watch, Yambanga, all these people. Here, in the force headquarters here, we have a framework that directs all CP commands and DPOs. In recognition of this community policing, the value of community policing, they should work together with these informal institutions. As a matter of fact, like you rightly pointed out, our patrol teams, why we don't have, of course we have shortage of personnel, we know that, but why you have 5 vigilante personnel with 2 policemen, they patrol a particular beat, simply because those people, they are, in most cases, they are natives. They know the terrain very well, they know the culture, they know the language, they know the nooks and crannies of those areas. The policemen, 2 of them, just to confer legality on that patrol exercise, 2 policemen will go along with them. Where arrest is being made, the policemen take the arrested person to the police station. So it's been happening. It is part and parcel of our framework. And like I said, this is also part of community policing, because we work together with the communities. You know, all agencies, all, it's like interdependency, collaboration, cooperation, and interdependency.
Okay, so let's go back to the phone now. From Makudi, Moses is calling in. Hello, Moses. Moses, hello.
I'm still hanging around.
Yes, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Slu. My problem there is the police-community relation is very good. The right thing to do to community and to the police. But the training, those that they trained before, they have all retired. I know I was one of the people that were trained in Makodi. The present commissioner of police of Ogun State was the officer that trained us. The problem now is if the police can ask governors to help them sponsor the more training of community relations. If governors can help police, the commissioner of police in charge of police community relations, he should have opened up this. If you give them money to pay and train these people, they will not. They will not give them the money. You see, most of the police that are passing out now, you will call them, ask them, what is police relationship? Police community relationship? They don't know. I don't know the type of training. I was trained just 6 months in the police college. And my performance is more than the people going on training 1 year, 6 months now. The training is the best thing now. If you say for state police is just that sending politicians to pick their talks and put into the police and send for their own interests. It will not help the nation. State police will never help the nation. It will create more immunity to other people. The commissioner of police in charge police-community relationship should open up. Police governors should please help them train the police more to have a relationship with the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, well, I'm interested in the aspect of changing of attitudes and all that. And Benson it was who mentioned in his opening statements about certain aspects that, you know, could be seen as part of the larger community policing, something like the PCRC, the Police Community Relations Committee. But again, what I'm looking at here is how do you prevent a situation where you begin to carry out community policing and a few individuals or groups, how do you prevent them from hijacking and using the same concept for their personal benefit? I'm saying this because it is well known, you go around, you see people who are hanging stickers of PCRC in their cars, and the only thing that does for them is to open doors to places for them to commit offenses and get away with it, or to intervene where, you know, law enforcement agents are trying to carry out their jobs and say, no, this is my friend, I'm a member of PCRC, and they go scot-free. How do you avoid that?
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the problems that one has to confront. If you read the literature in community policing, one of the downside of it is civilians trying to use the police to score cheap political gains and all those things, and even bringing their own family members because they now have access to the police. And the other side also is police officers becoming extra powerful because they now have access to the community and they can use that to get mileage and probably get promotion and all those things. But it's not in all instances that such things happen. And that is where accountability and transparency come in. And that is also where it is important that rules are laid down. And even in setting up the, whether it's a board or a forum or accountability forum or whatever that is set up between the police and the community, that the ground rules are set and that the community is actually part of it. Because that's why I was talking initially about the issue of a top-down approach. It will not work where the police go to the community and say, we have come for partnership, this is how the deal is going to go. No, it should be the other way around. It should actually be a level playing field where the community and the police sit together to say, this is how we want to fight crime. This is how we want to work with the police. This should be the do's and this should be the don'ts, so that everybody is on the same playing field. We did a pilot project on police officer visitation week where Nigerians had the opportunity of visiting police stations once in a while to ask a simple question. Do we have a model police station? If yes, what should be the basic requirements of such a model police station? And it really worked, because during that period when people go from one zone to the other, go from one police station to the other, the police opened their stations to Nigerians. Nigerians were able to look at the detention facilities, the entry, and everything that should actually occur in a particular station. And they were able to rank. And we use that opportunity to say station A, station B is what we actually see as a model station. So every year, each station actually wants to get the prize that they are the model police station in Nigeria. Well, we don't, it's not the police that says the rules of this is a model police station. It's the community that actually say, this is what we feel should be a model police station. So I think in terms of fashioning out the modalities, the citizens, community should be carried along. It's not only the police that should set the rules of how the partnership should work.
Okay, let's get a word now from the phones. We have Biliaminu calling from Yobe. Hello, Biliamino.
Good evening, Mr. Sirius.
Good evening.
Yeah, I wanted to chip into the issue of community policing in the nation today. The issue of this, the philosophy of this community policing is really not practicing in the police as required. Because the community needs the assistance of police. Sometimes the police doesn't assist. And this is one of the problems, all these issues is being mitigating the issue of community policing today in Nigeria. Because when you find out a community will be complaining on issues, even to report the issue on how to carry out that issues, there is no any means for solving that problems. Secondly, the leadership of the police is not helping matter into the community policy today in Nigeria.
All right. Okay. Well.
If I will take on your question on PCRC, first on the issue raised by the caller from Makodi, that the governors will have to help in the training. I'm sure the governors will be so willing to do that because more than ever before we are more conscious of the security in this country now, and I think all the governors will do whatever it takes to make sure security is enhanced in this country. So I'm sure if the police will come up with a robust protocol on what to do, the governors will certainly assist, and I will take this message to the governors board. Secondly, you raise a question on the PCRCs hijacking or using the relationship to either intimidate or go away with this. For every policy or for every program, you will have advantages and disadvantages. So we have to weigh. I think they will have statistics on how good the system works. As said by the person calling from Makwadi, he believed the system worked perfectly well, but we have some few that also use the system deviously. So I believe we have to weigh the two, and probably if we work on statistics, we'll get probably the advantage might by far supersede the disadvantage. But again, if you do proper profiling on the selection of people to accept as members of the PCRCs, probably you will reduce this from happening. So I believe we'll have to look at carefully how do we accept and train a person who wants to be a member of PCRC, do a lot of background checks and come up with the best selection criteria and then trace them. Probably will reduce the risk while we gain on the advantages.
For about 3 decades, excuse me, for about 3 decades, we have argued that this PRC should not be made up of the so-called elites in the community. It should be a mixture. It should not be representatives of traditional rulers, representatives of the leadership of the clerics or of the political class. If you want relationships, after all, people meet policemen on the road, at the police station, in the courtroom, otherwise, and then the people you meet are from sergeant to corporal to constable. We are hardly meeting the officers. So, for example, that means that the people you should put in that committee should not be preponderantly the elites. They should manifest the level of the community. And secondly, the people you need to train in terms of this relationship, it has to do with that kind of level. Maybe about one officer, but usually it should be inspectors downward, so that people will not take advantage of that membership, of that police relations committee.
Okay, at this point in time, we'll take a short break. When we return, there'll be more on perfecting the concept of community policing. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria, unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. The Federal Ministry of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. And yes, the discussions have been going on behind the scenes, robust discussions, and we'll let you into some of it after this other segment of the program. And as usual, we took out the cameras to talk to Nigerians, let the people speak. Let's see what they had to say about police, community policing.
The issue of community police is really overdue, and we begin to see the effect right now. The locals know themselves. It's the locals that can tell us anybody around them, the character of anybody within. And the local will pass information to the police, the organized police or police at the higher level, at the federal or even the DSS. So we need people at the local level that can pick this information, that know equally the terrain.
It helps in checkmating the excesses of all these criminals that live among us. It goes a very long way.
You see, the excesses of those criminals within the community will be reduced. At local level, for example, the chiefs and the ward heads, they know the people that come in and go out. You understand? So they can be able to, when they form a sort of community police, or a state police, they can be able to flush out all those criminals within them.
They should be supervised by the federal government so that no individual can come up with any policy to manipulate them to his selfish interests.
The Obas and the mayor, the chief, know the good people in the community and they know who is who in the society. So we go back to the community and in doing that, of course, it will involve all those who are who in the community, not just left it to the local government chairman alone. No.
And I know that a lot of Nigerians are actually conversing talking about it. It's because of the crisis, the security situation we found ourselves in. You know, a lot of the crime rate and all that. So I think people are actually asking for community policing.
There. And another aspect which I'd like us to look into as we consider the ideals of community policing, at the time there's some experimentation sending police officers to their local communities. All right? And there were arguments for and against. It was felt that the police officers, being from those communities, would know the peculiarities, would know the nature, would be at home with certain aspects of their culture, their tradition, so it would be easier for them to operate, and of course they would have, better access to people who would be willing to give information. Could that be used as part of the concept of the community policing that we're thinking about?
Yeah, I think the CP earlier on pointed out, there are different concepts of community policing. So there's no one stick or one branch of this is how community policing, and also you have to take into consideration cultural realities. So sending people to their local government or regions and all those things, it has its own advantages. It also has its own disadvantages because, like we say in Nigeria, politics is local. Okay. So one of the disadvantages actually is that there is that tendency of the individuals actually being compromised by the system. So somehow that experiment has been done before. How it played out is maybe one of the reasons why people are not so comfortable about the issue of state police. But the key point that the CP mentioned, which one also needs to take into consideration, is the fact that we need accountability. That issue of accountability is there. And as long as we don't have effective accountability and opportunity to punish individuals who go outside the rules of engagement, then there is a problem. And I don't think sending people or not sending people is the solution. I think the key thing is looking at the architecture we have in terms of security management in Nigeria and asking a question, valid question. How do we use what we have to achieve a purpose? So for me, I'm neither in support or against sending people to their localities because it has its own advantages. It also has its own disadvantages. It brings up the issue of what we are talking about, the police community relations committee, where people hijacked the system, and once you get that car sticker, you will become a local champion. Nobody actually touches you again. So also what we have found out is that sometimes when people are sent to their localities, they become demigods, and the essence of actually sending them there is lost because they are no longer accountable to the police. They are now accountable to the local criminals who operate in those places and then pay returns to them and all those things. So
actually it would be good if people of the lower ranks, from sergeants up to constable, are put in their areas of origin. But the officers, the one with the final authority, the one who is better trained, who is more knowledgeable, and who could not be affected by the shenanigans of local politics are the ones that you transfer around. And actually that will help community policing, because take for example, you cannot engage in community policing where you don't understand the language. So the lower ranks, there is a limitation to what they can do or undo in terms of damage when they are subject to the authority of their superior officer. If the superior officer, who should be transferable all over the country, wherever the organs want to post them. But for the lower ranks, those are the people who should actually be left in their areas of the country.
Okay, let's quickly take this call from Port Harcourt. Christian calling in from Port Harcourt. Hello. Are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm with you guys.
Hello, Christian.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good evening. Go ahead, please.
Yeah,
Okay, well, yes.
Well, now, I think, let me add, because I made the point before, whether you post them to their locality or send them to other locality, it all comes to one thing. Quality recruitment, knowing who to recruit as police officers, attitude, and professionalism. Yes. If you have this sorted out, wherever you post police officer will do his job diligently. Exactly. And I think that is the major issues. Because political consideration comes in during recruitments, we all know. The necessary training, like you said, funding issue is not there to instill the professionalism and the character that is needed for a perfect policeman. So until these things are solved, either community policing or whatever we are talking about will not work.
Okay, let's try again the phones. From Abuja here, we have Ibekwe calling in. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm calling from Abuja. My name is Ibekwe.
Right, go on.
Yes, I'm enjoying this program. And for my own confession, I think you take police because no one knows you more than you. It's not an education for the federal police, because I think you are afraid of the government. So nobody knows you more than you. So, and that makes you people consider that.
All right. Thank you. Yes, CP.
Okay, let me respond on this issue of posting of police personnel to their states of origin. This is happening now. Like the Prof pointed out, the junior ranks, constables, corporal, are posted out back to their states of origin in order to boost community policy. Like we said, it's happening now. In the late 80s, it was tried before, of all ranks in Nigeria here. Then it backfired. It boomerang against
What were the challenges then?
The challenges then, one typical example was Zango Kataf crisis.
Right.
Yeah. Around 1992-93 in Kaduna, where you have indigenes now who are serving
Zango
there.
Kataf, that was early 80s.
Zango Kataf.
Oh, no.
Early 90s.
Okay. No, Zango Kataf. Okay. I thought you said Mr. Seni.
No, Zango Kataf crisis in Kaduna.
Yes.
You know, the natives, the indigenes who have been sent back to their state of origin to serve, that is senior officers, some are DPO, some are area commanders. They now turn around, they are conniving with, so it becomes a problem. Yeah. In terms of arms and ammunition, this kind of thing. So the crisis really escalated. Yes. And it led to so many destruction of lives and property. So based on that, lessons learned, that policy was abandoned. But with the inculcation of community-oriented policy now that we are talking about, it was reviewed And just like Prof pointed out, I'm sure maybe he could be one of the advisors of the police management.
Who?
That, because what you said actually, that's what informed them. That the rank and file, that they don't have much authority and much control over resources or maybe arms and ammunition could as well be sent back to go and boost community policing in the areas of state of origin. That is on this issue. Then the second issue is the PCRC. I still want to go back to that issue.
Right.
PCRC is a very important bridge between the police as an institution and the community. They help us a lot. We really rely so much on their support by intelligence. In fact, as a matter of even some states, they even renovate police stations. PCRC, they contribute money and then they stop. And the membership of the PCRCs cuts across all segments of the society. Not just limited to a political class or the business class, or no, it cuts across. You find drivers, road transport union as members. You find mechanics as members. Yes,
their reputation.
As members of PCRC.
No, I just said their reputation. The Road Transport Workers Union.
Yes, the officials, you find them as members of PCRC. Simply because you need to get information from all facets of the society. Criminals normally, of course, at the motor parks, is another source of getting information about criminals who are trespassing, transgressing from one point to another point. So we get to know from them, this man came with this kind of vehicle, he entered this is luggage, this is why he entered, so it helps a lot. I understand.
We have a caller from Lagos, if you're still there, Josiah, calling in from Lagos. Hello, Josiah, go right ahead. Do we have Josiah on the line?
Yes, Josiah is here.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, go on. We're waiting to hear from you.
Okay, I just want to go straight to the... All right, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just want to say, I want to add my voice to that of the governor of Jigawa State. He has made a very good point. Another thing again is, when we are talking about community policing, we look at the training of these policemen. And also, I want to talk about the kind of orientation they have. Before you can talk about community policing and how you want to have a cordial relationship with this community, you have to have a kind of training and, how will I put it, have to have a very good background in how to relate to these people. Not when you come to these communities, instead of you relating with them in a very good way, rather you end up just, either you start victimizing them, or probably you turn it, you make yourself lord over them and all that. And then whenever you say police is your friend, like the governor said, how would we know that these police people are our friends? We've heard of cases of policemen shooting people in Lagos in time past. Without just, I don't know, somebody you ask for something and next thing you hear is the policeman brings that pistol and then gun down this person. And with this kind of scenarios happening, we don't expect the community to be in cordial relationship with the policemen. I don't know if the commissioner is listening, he should be able to address this kind of thing and probably include it in their training and the orientation of a perfect policeman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josiah. And we heard the points, yes?
Yes. Your Excellency also spoke about vetting of PCRC members, which we do. It's not everybody that comes. Anybody who wants to become a member, there are forms that normally fill, and also there's a background checking. Right. And somebody there must be a referee. Somebody must recommend you that you are eligible, you are staying in this compound, everybody knows why you are staying, this is why you work, this is your house, this is your off. You understand? Has have to vet it before we now admit you as member of a PCRC. So basically they are reputable members of the society. And there are so many other groups, like we said, so Neighborhood, Vigilante of Nigeria, so many other civil society organizations, other NGOs that really collaborate with the police. This is basically what community policing is all about.
Yeah. How far with improvements in the perception, public perception of the police? Because it's been said that one of the challenges you have in terms of intelligence gathering is that you still have challenges with people readily giving information to the police.
It's true. One of the fundamental indices of measuring police performance is from feedback from the public perception. That is in terms of service delivery. If community is satisfied with what the police are doing, you now get positive feedback from the community. And then that means there's a trust and confidence between the community and the police. So much so that whatever happens, the community will be willing to divulge information to the police about such incidences. Now, where there is a gap between this, then that means that there's a problem. It's a very good criteria to measure police performance, public perception, and then intelligence report coming from the members of the public.
All right. More calls coming through, this time from Benin. Patrick calling in from Benin. Hello, Patrick. Yes, Patrick, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just trying to bring it. I think we've been getting it so hard on the police. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We'll be getting it so hard on the police. We should know one thing, that police is the product of our society. Policemen that we have, they are not from other places. I think the criminologist is there and can attest to this. They are from this society. They were trained in this society by the same professionals in this society. So if we are shifting all the blame to the police, I think we are wrong. The criminologists can support this. And I praise the effort of the commissioner. Our brothers, they are the policemen. Our sisters, they are the policewomen. The governor knows about all this. First of all, the country started the problem by creating other sister agencies that we don't need. And the fund that is supposed to be going to the police, to fund the police very well, is being shared with all these agencies that are doing nothing. I always commend the police. If you go around the country, this is almost new day now. It's only the police that is working now. Look out for other sister agencies. They are sleeping like civil servants. And we keep on blaming these people. The fact is just, let's commend them for the issue. And let's really invest in these police people. Because if you go to other countries, you hear the money they spend on their police is more than the money we spend in some of the sector of the economy that is not really needed. We've not made any investment in these people. And remember, more than 1/3 of these people, they guide VIPs and other dignitaries. We are almost 200 million today, and our police is not up to 400,000. Do the estimate and know one policeman to how many civilians. Let's invest in these people, and if they are not giving results, we can blackmail or we can crucify them. We've not made any investment. If you look at their salary structure, they pay some that are sleeping now more than the police. So why will these people not have the same attitude that we have? Let's stop blaming them. We are part of them. Me that is talking, if I'm recruited to join the police now, if I'm part of the police, I will have the same attitude. Because even sometimes the policeman don't want to take that. But we call it is not a bribe, it's just from my mind. So the society is what is sick. And the problem is our population too. We've overshot our population. Let's see all these tools. The professor should be sincere. You cannot use 400,000 policemen to guide almost 200 million citizens. Ask the governor if he's sincere. That cannot work. I think this is my contribution. Commissioner, I agree with your effort. Keep it up. I think we should improve.
All right. Thank you very much, Patrick from Benin.
Yeah,
well,
but let me add to support also the police.
Yes.
I think a lot of people measure, and the criminologist is here, a lot of people measure the performance of police based on the increase in crime, which is not correct. To my thinking, there are so many series of reasons why you get escalation of crimes. There is the politically induced crimes, there are the economic induced crime, and so many other forms of crime associated to the point in time, and that has escalated crime. So the yardstick, I believe we measure increase in crime should be checked very well. It might not necessarily be the fault of the police. For instance, what do you do with somebody who wakes up in the morning, doesn't know where to go, no business to do, no food to eat, no future. For him, his life is nothing to him. So he can engage himself on whatever crime he finds on the way, because he's not afraid of being locked, he's not afraid of being killed because he's dead already. So when we do not tackle the economic situation, for instance, it becomes a problem, and crime prevention will continue to be very, very, very difficult.
Okay, let me just say that.
Yes, okay. Just before you come in, we have a caller from Aba, Chinedu. Hello, Chinedu. Hello, Chinedu, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, go right ahead.
I said, are you hearing me?
Sure, we are.
Most people in vigilante, most of them, especially the headmen on them, they are ex-armed robbers, ex-kidnappers. They went ahead of the police. So, and most of them manipulate police. There's nothing wrong about having them.
All right, is that it, Chinedu?
Yeah.
Okay. Your quarrel is with vigilantes.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's hear you. What's the issue with the vigilantes?
There's nothing wrong having them.
Okay.
Most of them, they are ex-criminals.
Okay. All right. Okay. Sometimes you have reformed offenders who have now, they have now turned a new leaf. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for putting it in.
The point I want to make is in response to the last caller.
Patrick from Bini.
Last but one.
Yes.
I don't think any of us here has been blaming the police for the increase in criminality. If anything, one appreciates and understands the problem of the police.
I think he's talking generally, not from this panel.
I know,
generally.
And some of them, they are self-imposed, because if you know from the beginning, I said there is a problem of recruitment. I mean, how do you recruit people who don't qualify to be police as policemen? How do you train people who are supposed to enforce your laws for 4 or less than 6 months? How do you then deploy them actually to where they are not supposed to be? How do you mess up their welfare? I'll tell you this, he will not support what I'm going to say, but when they are going for election, the government provides money to the police to be disbursed to each and every of the policemen they are sending to a particular station. But do they give the money to them? Hell no, they don't give all the money to those they are sending to the field. We are therefore exposing the policemen to politicians from left and right to bribe them or compromise them. So one is aware of that, but they say to whom much is given, much is expected. The police is the bastion between us and a disordered society, and that is why we have to be critical, not to blame them, but to make them better. And I am saying that why I know that government is not funding them enough, still the little they have, if they were judiciously employed, it will go some way in alleviating their condition. Over 30 years ago, I wrote that they have material inadequacies, material insufficiencies, but their major problem is human and relational. So if the organization, the deployment, the training, the recruitment is as expected to be, their problems will be reduced. Of course, I know they are underfunded, but who is not underfunded in Nigeria? If you take the anti-corruption agencies, the anti-corruption agencies are relying more on, except, let me just tell you this one, except for personnel. The government hardly gives money. A government that wants billions to be recovered from corrupt people, but is not willing to spend 1 billion naira only to pay personnel. more or less that's what the government funds these anti-corruption agencies with. Similarly, the police, I think they spend more money on personnel, on paying salaries than actually the equipment, even the training. The training is concentrated on officers. It's the rank and file that actually do most of the work. Sergeant, corporal, constable, and these are the people where you need the attitude to change, you need their behavior to change, and those are the people where 80% of the funds should go. Just like in judiciary, a lot of the money is spent on judges, even though 90% of the cases are handled by the lower court, magistrate court, customary court. These are the people who handle most of the, am I lying? Those are the people who handle most of the, of the cases.
Okay. All right. At this point in time, let's bring in another caller, Inu, I believe, from Ibadan. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Cyril. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Mr. Ino calling from Ibadan.
Okay.
Mr. Cyril, thank you very much, and the discussants as well. You've all contributed your own quota, and at the same time, we are not taking this security issue as a very simple thing, which of course it's not supposed to be. In fact, the governor is the chief security officer of the state. We have the village to understand the areas, the village head to understand, the village the head of the, what to understand the language, so to say. But in the situation whereby there are crises in a particular state, if we ever, understand, find those people wanted or ransom, or, to punish them, in a situation whereby at least a governor, there is a crisis in the other state, and see is there any state of emergency that has been imposed on that particular state, or is there any area that has been removed, you understand, as regards to arrest, you understand, in a particular domain? These things have never been done, you understand. Like, to further protect my point as well, like the president is taking a war, you understand, against corruption. At least we have some pilots of, you understand, the ministers have gone on the presentation of this one. If I were to be Mr. President, in fact, I'm going to submit all these, my ministers, you understand, to, let's say, the ACC, to come them. Let each and every one of them, understand, find himself out, you understand. So that's way we can clean the country, you understand, and move forward. You see, there are many problems, you understand, on ground, but the president is trying his best. I will also have to contribute, you understand, and support him as well. Thank you very much. This is my contribution on this angle.
All right, thank you very much. Yes,
there's something Prof said, which is something that we've also grappled with in terms of our own assessments and research. There's a disconnect between the rank and file and the officers. It's not only obvious in the police, it also happens in other security agencies. The senior officers, the commissioned officer, the big boys included, they are well-trained, professionals. Unfortunately, the daily contact Nigerians have with security agencies are the rank and file. And that is our own perception, because most of the perception surveys we've done in Nigeria in terms of security, crime and criminality, is always damning on police and security agencies. Why? Because the person you meet at the roadblock is rank and file. And sometimes they don't have the effective training. They are not well paid. And so, like maybe Patrick or somebody said, the police is a mirror of the society. So the society is also skewed in a way that some people are just disadvantaged, not because they want to be disadvantaged, but the system is built in a way that probably those who are rich get richer, and those who are just poor, they don't have a way of, there's a ceiling, actually. So that also affects probably the morale, and that, I think, is a key issue. There is need to look closely at the recruitment. One thing that's also happened in some of our discussions is that it's not every average Nigerian that want to join the police. If you look at their payroll and all those things. And that's
that has improved, though, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has improved, bro. It has improved, yeah.
Thanks to Mr. President.
It has improved, but there is still a problem. And then, training on the job. Policing is a stressful work. And what we're actually looking at, somebody made a point that in recruitment, we need to actually involve psychologists. But beyond recruitment, actually, there should be evaluation, continuous evaluation for police officers. Because there's a tendency that somebody who was recruited, who is normal, because of the stressful position, stressful beats they do, they could actually, you may not know when they might need psychological evaluation. And we just feel everybody is normal. We are not all normal. The way things happen, people wake up and jump into what's that in Lagos, where people just wake up, leave their car and jump. So some people have gone crazy in Nigeria. I'm not saying police officers are crazy, but what I'm trying to say is that as we recruit, we need to do evaluation. Even after recruitment, there is need for training. And even as we train, even as they're on the job, we also need to retrain them. We also need to reevaluate them. But critically, we need to look at the issue of rank and file. Their training is important because this is actually the mirror of the police. It's not the senior officers. We don't see them always.
We don't have problems with senior officers, never.
You don't have access to the first headquarters always. But as I'm going now, you will see people on the road, and this is our own mirror. When you ask us, is the police your friend? With some of them, they are not our friends. But I mean, we can always sit with the senior officers and discuss. But the people who form the bulk of the police, I think something should be done.
Okay.
Let me just be frank and straightforward. Universally, it has been accepted that the Nigeria police force is one of the best in the world in terms of peace support operations. United Nations, we do one of the best. After us, next maybe Ghana. African Union, the same thing. Anytime our contingent go outside, they come back with laurels. They perform wonderfully well, good certificates and commendations. Here, we receive them here and do parties, receptions for them. The question is, why? Why do they perform very well there? When they come back here, they don't perform so well. Nobody cares to answer this kind of question. If there's a problem, get to the root of the problem, diagnose the problem, and then you try to find solutions. Why is the Nigeria police force doing well outside, but not at home? Let me give you a clue. An average police officer in Nigeria who aspires to go on a foreign mission, 2 reasons, motivations. 1, exposure, international exposure, to get experience, to learn more. 2nd, dollars, foreign currency. Means poverty. That is just it. So if you can replicate those conditions in the UN, in Nigeria, that means what they do there, they would do here. They will excel. Okay. Simple, that is just it.
All right.
Replicate it.
Okay. As we begin to wind down this discussion, what are the main points would say we should take with us and say, as we begin to rejuvenate community policing in line with the president's directive, what are those things that we should now do, drawing from the experiences of the past, where it almost went comatose, so as not to spend another 15 years, like everybody said, and come back and see whether it will work. What are those things, Prof?
Okay. 2 things I would like us to take away. 1 is that community policing is very good if executed holistically and if it is executed in the context of appropriate recruitment, including aptitude testing, comprehensive training in which there will be emphasis on social psychological contents of such courses, like the meaning of discretion, the history of the Nigerian police force, what is your role in the democracy, and so on and so forth. The deployment after they get to be trained, so that they will appreciate that deployment is not only for to the elite areas of a community, but evenly as needed. And again, the matter of welfare, which the commissioner mentioned. It's not so much that their pay is low, it's what happens inside the police force itself in terms of the income distribution in the force. Secondly, is that whoever has advised the president for the energization of this community policing is good advice. However, it is important that the administration should know that the result, the benefit of this energization is not something that they will get today. If they had done this 30 years ago, 20 years ago, perhaps the crisis we're having of insecurity, banditry, kidnapping and the like would not have occurred. If today, government, this administration is able to lay the foundation on this community policy, maybe 10, 20 years from now, we'll have the benefit. As for now, the approach to the current security problem has to be professional, technical, and virtually vicious. But the community policing is good as a foundation for tomorrow. Those are the takeaways I would like to submit. Yes.
All right, thank you, Prof. Benson will go.
Yeah, three things. One is that it's a partnership, and that means the community has to be involved, even in the rollout. The community should not be involved; it should not be invited to the table. They should be part of the discussions. Beyond that, I concede to what the CP has said about the force orders. But I think also that the issue of community policing, as we discussed now, should have a legal backing. And that means that the police bill that is currently before the National Assembly, that expressly provides for community policing, I think it is important, and it's actually as a legacy for the president, that once he gets to his table, he should sign it as a political will, and also as a commitment that he wants this thing to run, and not just the rollout, but also give it legal backing that Nigerians have access to so that 2-3 years down the line, we can do an assessment and ask ourselves, is it working, what is not working, and all those things. And just to also support what Prof is saying, everything still revolves on the big question about stability and sustainability in Nigeria. There is need for sustainability. And that means we need to put our money where our mouth is. If we just roll it out and expect donor agencies to support it, foreign organizations to bankroll it, it will not work. So if government wants an effective community policing, government should make sure there is a fund for it and should actually work to ensure that the ownership is there. The CP has told us that there's ownership, yes. But the ownership should not just be in paper. Ownership should also be in the way it is administered. And that means there should be sustainability. It's now being rolled out in the 36 states. If I was asked to advise the president, I would have said, let's do pilots first. The pilots will give us an opportunity to know how it will work, how it should work before we roll out. But no, there's no problem. I mean, there is security challenge on all the 36 states now. So I don't think that is a problem. Finally, I think civil society organizations should also be carried along, because we have been part and parcel of the previous processes. And one of the key things why they didn't work as they ought to work is that, of course, when we speak, people feel we're not part of government, so we don't understand policy. But we contribute our own quota by saying that there is this problem, there is issue of ownership, there is this issue of funding, and there is issue of sustainability. So as it's being rolled out, the community is key. But beyond the community, civil society also has a role to play. And then the issue of funding from the government and not from donor agencies, and we should think critically about sustainability. Thank you.
Right, CP, what are you going to do differently this time? What will be different in the approach to community policing? And as you do that, I want you to also take into consideration the role of the traditional institution as well.
Exactly. Okay, thank you so much. I must really say that community policing, like we all accept here, is the best concept for policing all over the world. And it fits a multicultural society like Nigeria. We really embrace that, we really imbibe it. From now moving forward, especially with the presidential directive and the IGP's directive to all police managers all over the country to implement community policing strategies in their own formations, I believe there's going to be a paradigm shift, complete paradigm shift at the strategic management level, at the intermediate level, and the grassroots. With this presidential, I think it's a blessing coming from the Mr. President himself, now trying to galvanize the entire process to see that it is being implemented. And we believe the government is now going to be fully driving the entire process. And I am going to assure Nigerians that from now forward, basically, they will see a lot of changes. The current IGP is very much passionate about community policy. And of course, you know how he's been running up and down across the country. Anywhere things happen, you see him appearing there. Basically, he's very, very committed and dedicated to see that this concept succeed. And the observation made by His Excellency, I can assure you I'm going to relay straight to the IG in terms of training, assisting in training PCRC members, which is very, very important. I will really inform the IG. If your colleagues are also going to key in, I think it will really help in a way. That's the essence of community policy, collaboration, consultation, and then cooperation. And then we need to own the entire concept and see that we put our hands together and see that we succeed.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Governor, these are indeed difficult times for the country with the rate of criminality all over. And, the tough times security agencies have in stemming this, and what would be your advice to the Nigerian society? First, you started talking initially about the change of attitude to the people, and knowing that even if the number of police personnel were to satisfy the UN recommendations, it is impossible to have the police everywhere all the time. So what would be the role of the people, the society, and the communities in helping to, create and sustain at least a crime-free society?
I think majorly the community will have to support the police, will have to support the governments with a lot of intelligence. The crime happens in a community, and some from the community already know what is happening. And if the community will be vigilant, if the community will own the security process, they will be able to advise the police and provide intelligence that will reduce the criminality a lot. So I appeal to the traditional rulers and the communities and our own people to know that nobody, no amount, like you have said, of police in a society will prevent crime without the assistance and the cooperation of the community. And I believe if the community become responsive to this, there will certainly be serious reduction in criminality in the country. So I appeal to the community, to the traditional rulers, to the politicians, and to the vibrant youth. We have one Nigeria, and we are in crisis now, and all hands must be on deck to stop this from happening and to improve our security situation in this country. And on the policing, I believe the IGP will have to sustain the tempo, will have to get briefings, if possible, weekly, and also probably monthly, brief the president. That way, you keep the tempo. What we do in the state, if we want to succeed in a particular project, we put it permanently on our weekly executive council meeting for briefing. That way, you keep the tempo. That way, you manage the situation and be on top of it. So if the community policing will be on the agenda of the IGP on his weekly meetings,
the president.
And the president,
yes.
At least they will know what is happening. Evaluation will be weekly, and then problems that arise can easily be solved if at the top level you have clear understanding what is happening at the lower level. And on our part, the governors will continue to comment, send in our observations to the IGP and to the president, so that we have the concept sustained.
All right. Thank you. Well, so far we've talked about what needs to be done to resuscitate the concept of community policing, and what the major partners should do, the community, the police, and then the ownership structure. On a final note, Prof, I'll start this with you. You have always harped on the recruitment process. I want us to go beyond that, not just the recruitment. Let's go to that cradle of society, family, because it is from that stage that you produce people who aspire to be either law enforcement agencies, law-abiding citizens, or otherwise. And in times like this, so much attention is on procuring and not much attention on grooming. What would you say?
I think every family wants its offspring to do well and be good members of society. Even a family of armed robbers, they want their children to go to school, they want them to be employed, they want them to have. Now, but of course, the material condition of existence creates a situation whereby some, if not many, become problems for the society. I'm not one of those who believe that there are certain families who want their products to come out deviant, to come out criminal. But after that, that's first level of social control. It is after that society comes in, the church comes in, the mosque comes in, the renegades that are the failures of the initial socialization agent, which is the family. Those are the secondary institutions of society that are supposed to make the correction. It is when that phase that we have formal agencies of control, like the police, the courts, and the prisons. As far as I'm concerned, I would want a situation whereby the people who are going to become a policeman are people who actually want to be policemen. Just like people want to be lawyers, want to be lecturers, want to be journalists. People who should be policemen are those who actually want to be policemen, not those who are policemen because they don't have any other job. And that when they are there, I'm sorry to go back again, they are properly trained. Okay? Take, for example, how do you get, a lawyer is trained for 4 or 5 years, am I correct? Then the policeman who is supposed to enforce the law, after secondary school, is trained for 6 months. How do you, it doesn't make any sense. He should be trained for minimum of 2-3 years to make him a functioning police officer. When you do that, family is important, but I don't think it will make much difference, because who you will get must be good products from successful, in quote, families that have offsprings that can make it.
All right, well, thank you for your views, and as we always say.
And then just one more thing. You see this first order, which has just gone. If the police can just ensure that it's internalized, it's internalized by every policeman, their problem is more than half solved.
Yeah.
This order that has been issued since 2013,
amended 2016,
amended 2015.
16.
If the police can just make sure that it's sterilized down the line, then you won't even need the order of the president that has just been given. But now that the president has given the order, and that order will now enforce this amended order, then all things should be well with the police.
What I intend to do on this issue is that by tomorrow when I get back, after briefing my DIG, we are going to produce this en masse,
right,
to make sure that every senior police officer has a copy. And it's going along with a circular You know, IG already given, Presidential has given his directive, IG has given his directive to all police managers on the field. It's going out a circular attached with this force order to make sure that it is holistically implemented.
Okay. Well, and as we always say, no one program can take care of all the issues. There will be another day. Let's hope that the other time we gather to talk about community policing, it will be more or less tell us how the level of success that has been achieved and how it's been prosecuted. But for now, we must leave this conversation and say thank you to all our guests who are here. Professor Femi Odekunle, criminologist, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Always a pleasure to have you join us. Let me also thank Dr. Benson Elugo, Executive Director, Clean Foundation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Commissioner of Police Yahya Abubakar, charge of community policing.
Thank you, Mr. Silstoba. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
Right.
Yes.
And thanks, as usual, to Governor Mohammed Badaru Abubakar of Jigawa State, always obliging us when we ask him to share his thoughts with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And it's thank you to you for being part of this program. Next week we'll reach you again on NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.